Retirement changes your life in ways nobody really prepares you for. Not the big things you expect, the money, the free time, the slower mornings, but the quiet things, the things that fade, soften, or shift without warning. Some of them feel peaceful, some feel strange, and some catch you completely off guard. Today, we're talking about the 7 things that quietly go silent after you retire, the ones people rarely mention, but everyone eventually feels. And if you're planning for retirement, or you're already living it, understanding these shifts can make the transition feel a lot less confusing and a lot more human. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe so you never miss videos that help you build a calmer, more intentional financial life. Let's start with the first thing that fades. Not because of conflict, but because of something much more subtle. Thing 1. The pace of your friendships quietly changes. One of the first quiet shifts in retirement happens with your friendships. Not because anyone grows apart, but because your daily rhythms no longer match. Most of the people you care about are still juggling full-time jobs, school schedules, commutes, and family routines. Their days move fast, their time is limited, their life runs on a clock, then suddenly, yours doesn't. You wake up with slow mornings, while they are rushing to get out the door. You have open afternoons while they are stuck in back-to-back meetings. You have energy for long conversations while they are squeezing in a quick text while making dinner. The overlap that kept your friendships effortlessly alive just shrinks. Nothing dramatic happens. There's no falling out or conflict. It's simply that you step into a different pace of life, and they're not in that pace yet. The beautiful part is that retirement gives you space to build new friendships with people whose days look more like yours now. People who can meet for a walk at 10 in the morning or talk without checking the time. You don't lose connection, you grow into a new one. Now let's move into thing 2, a shift that happens internally and often catches people by surprise. Thing 2, your old ambitions go quiet. One of the first surprises after retirement is how quickly your old career ambitions fade. All the goals you chased for years, promotions, recognition, progress, suddenly feel distant, like they belong to a different version of you. And it's not because you lose motivation. It's because the environment that demanded those ambitions is gone. When you no longer have meetings, deadlines, and performance reviews shaping your identity, the drive to move up simply softens. The ladder stops mattering. But here's the interesting part. Ambition doesn't disappear. It shifts. It redirects into things that feel meaningful now. Your health, your hobbies, your relationships, your home, your creative projects. You still feel driven, just toward a life you actually chose, not one you inherited from your job. Retirement doesn't make you less ambitious. It makes your ambition more honest. Thing 3, your daily structure quietly disappears. For most of your working life, your schedule is built for you. Alarms, commutes, meetings, deadlines, routines. You don't realize how much structure holds your days together until the moment it's gone. When you retire, that entire framework disappears almost overnight. No clock to race, no calendar telling you where to be, no rhythm pushing you forward. At first, the openness feels almost unreal, like you're missing something important. But as the days unfold, you start to understand the gift in it. You're free to shape your time instead of reacting to it. Mornings slow down, afternoons stretch out. Your day becomes something you design, not something you survive. It's not the absence of structure that feels strange. It's realizing how little of it you truly needed once work no longer ran your life. Thing 4, the constant urgency you lived with just disappears. During your working years, everything feels like it needs to happen right now. Emails, deadlines, errands, calls. Your whole life runs on a timer you didn't choose. But after you retire, that urgency just stops. You're no longer squeezing your life into evenings and weekends. You're not rushing from one thing to the next. You're not mentally sprinting from morning to night. And at first, it feels strange, almost like you're forgetting something. But eventually, the quiet pace becomes natural. You take your time. You finish things when you want to. You move through your day without that invisible pressure chasing you. It's one of the most peaceful parts of retirement, realizing that nothing is on fire anymore. And for the first time in decades, you're allowed to slow down. Thing 5, the pressure to prove yourself fades away. One of the quietest changes after retirement is realizing how much of your identity was shaped by the need to prove yourself. For years, your value was tied to being productive, being reliable, meeting expectations, and showing that you were capable. Even if you weren't chasing promotions, that pressure was always there in the background. When you retire, that entire layer of life disappears almost overnight. There are no performance reviews, no deadlines, no subtle comparisons, no need to justify how you spend your time, and only then do you notice how heavy that pressure had become. What's left is a different kind of ambition, one that isn't about achievement, but about living well. You make choices because they matter to you, not because they'll be judged or measured. Tasks feel lighter, days feel calmer, and your identity begins to shift from what you did for a living to who you are as a person. Retirement doesn't make you less driven. It frees you from proving anything to anyone. Thing 6. Your career identity quietly slips into the background. For most of your life, your job becomes a shortcut for who you are. When someone asks, "What do?" you answer with a title, a role, a company. And over time, that answer stops being just information. It becomes part of your identity. But retirement changes that in a way you don't fully expect. The moment you step away from work, the part of you that was defined by your career starts to soften. Not because you lose pride in what you did, but because it no longer feels like the most important thing about you. You stop thinking of yourself through the lens of a job description, and people stop relating to you that way too. At first, it feels strange. Then it feels freeing. You begin to introduce yourself differently. You talk about your hobbies, your routines, your projects, your life, not your occupation. Your identity expands into areas that were pushed to the edges for years. It's not that your career disappears, it just moves into the background, making space for a version of you that isn't tied to productivity, titles, or achievements. Retirement doesn't erase who you were, it simply reveals who you are now. Thing 7. Your internal noise turns into clarity. One of the most unexpected shifts after retirement isn't external, it's internal. During your working years, your mind is always buzzing. To-dos, deadlines, emails, family obligations, schedules, reminders. It all blends together into a constant background noise you learn to live with. You don't notice it because it never stops, but once you retire, that mental noise slowly quiets down. The racing thoughts, the planning, the worrying, the juggling, all of it begins to fade. You're no longer managing your life in fast forward. And when that noise disappears, something surprising shows up in its place. Clarity. You start thinking more clearly because your thoughts aren't competing with stress. You make decisions more calmly because they aren't rushed. You understand what matters to you and what never really did, because there's space to actually hear yourself. This clarity isn't dramatic. It doesn't arrive in one big moment. It shows up gradually, in quieter mornings, slower afternoons, and the stillness you didn't have before. Retirement creates room for reflection, room for honesty, room for peace. And for many people, that inner clarity becomes one of the most valuable parts of retired life, something they never expected but deeply appreciate. When people picture retirement, they imagine trips, hobbies, and free time. But the biggest change isn't loud, it's the quiet that settles into your life. The urgency fades, the pressure eases, the old identity softens, and the mental noise you carried for decades finally goes still. At first, that quiet can feel unfamiliar, but then you realize it isn't emptiness, it's space. Space to breathe, to think, to live at a pace that actually feels human again. Retirement isn't about losing who you were, it's about rediscovering who you are, without all the noise. If this resonated with you, make sure to subscribe and check out the video appearing on your screen next. It continues this conversation beautifully. Thanks for watching.